Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump is hosting Argentinian President Javier Milei at the White House right now. The meeting comes as Milei faces market turmoil and prepares for midterm elections in Argentina. Will the first round of missed paychecks pressure lawmakers to reopen the government? Senators return to Washington as the shutdown enters the 14th day. What is President Trump's overall approach to peace on the world stage? How does it differ from previous administrations? We discuss this with an analyst. House Speaker Mike Johnson will be helping secure more nominations for President Trump to give the Nobel Peace Prize. What the Speaker has to say about the Gaza peace deal. Attorney General Pam Bondi says Facebook has removed a page used to dox ICE agents in Chicago. She says social media campaigns are driving a wave of violence. A glimpse at the economic outlook. Without government data, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell shares his insights with the information that is available.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. Hamas terrorists tightened their grip in Gaza today after carrying out public executions. The terrorists executed men they accused of collaborating with Israeli forces. Gaza residents said the terrorists were increasingly visible today, deploying along routes needed for aid deliveries. Palestinian security sources say dozens of people have been killed in clashes between Hamas fighters and rivals in recent days, and Israel's military says it has identified the bodies of 4 deceased hostages that include Nepali national Bipin Joshi and Israeli citizen Guy Aluz, who was taken from the Nova Music Festival. 2 others remain unnamed at their families' request. The army says Hamas is still holding the bodies of 24 hostages. And President Trump is having a bilateral meeting with Argentine President Javier Milei at the White House right now. Let's take a look at that.
About you as you were running and even before you were running, because as a tremendously talented economist, you were getting a lot of good write-ups, and I appreciated that. But he was make Argentina great again. It worked. I actually sent him some hats for his early part of the campaign, and then he called me. He wanted a lot more, and I said, "When does it stop? When will it stop?" And it stopped with him winning, and he's become very popular, and he's on the verge of a breakthrough. I think he's really on the verge of tremendous economic success, and I know that Scott Bessent is helping, and our great Scott is doing a job, and he feels very strongly about it. And Scott, do you want to say just a couple of words about that, please?
Yes, sir. The president is fighting 100 years of bad economic history and policy, and is
Both presidents.
Both.
We're fighting bad. I thought he was talking about the U.S. president when he said
And there's a midterm election coming up. We think he's going to do quite well, and then continue his reform agenda. Mr. President, as you said, President Obama had a big opportunity during his term, which he wasted. Many governments in Latin America went center-right, and the U.S. ignored them. We are not going to ignore our allies. It is economic strength. We're using our economic strength to create peace, just as you've done all over the world. And it is much better to form an economic bridge with our allies, people who want to do the right thing, than have to have shoot at narco gunboats. We think that this is an opportunity for the Argentinian people, and that President Milei is the one to do it. He's got a great cabinet. He's got a great team who we've worked with over the past weeks.
And the election is coming up very soon, and it's a very big election being watched by the world, because he's done an incredible job. But with that comes some pain, and they have some pain, and now they're coming out of it. And I think the victory is very important. Your poll numbers, I hear, are pretty good, but I think they'll be better after this. And, you know, our approvals are somewhat subject to who wins the election, because if a socialist, or in the case of New York City, a communist wins, you feel a lot differently about making an investment, I think, Scott, you'd feel that if somebody that had no chance, in other words, if somebody wins and has no chance of ever having a great economy because of that philosophy, you would put a halt to what we're doing.
Yes, sir, and we're confident that President Milei is going to do well. We've been criticized by a couple of American Peronists, like Senator Warren. And you know, she and
That's a compliment.
Yeah.
She has no idea what she's doing. She's a nasty, horrible senator. Go ahead. Other than that, I like her very much.
Yes, and she and her protege in New York, Mandame, who I don't even think he's a Peronist. I think he's more the communist Chauvinismo. So we stand with the president and what he stands for and the hope for the Argentinian people. And President Trump, just like you, he carries the young people. So it's hope for the future. The Argentines have made the decision to shake off 100 years of bad policy. They went from one of the richest countries in the world to a ton of debt. And I think that with the bridge the U.S. is giving them and the strong policies, that Argentina can be great again.
Thank you very much. Please, go ahead, please.
Muchísimas gracias por esta recepción. Me siento muy honrado, muy especialmente en este momento en el que, digamos, gracias al gran liderazgo suyo, presidente Trump, ha logrado la paz en Medio Oriente. No solo este gran logro que ha sido alcanzar la paz en Medio Oriente, sino lograr el retorno de los 20 rehenes vivos. Además, quiero también felicitar por esa labor y por entender, digamos, la amenaza que es el socialismo del siglo XXI en todo el mundo, y en especial en América Latina, la labor de Marco Rubio. Y también quiero agradecer profundamente el enorme trabajo que ha hecho el secretario Bessent, digamos, para ayudar a superar este problema de iliquidez que tenía Argentina como consecuencia, digamos, de los ataques políticos que hemos sufrido por nuestros opositores que no quieren que Argentina vuelva a abrazar las ideas de la libertad y que quieran volver a abrazar ideas perimidas, fracasadas, que en el fondo no son ni más ni menos que caminos que conducen al socialismo. Así es que, en primer lugar, muchas gracias por recibirme, muchas gracias por lo que están haciendo por el mundo libre y muchas gracias al secretario Bessent por la enorme tarea que ha llevado a cabo y que, digamos, nos permite tener una ruta para poder transitar tranquilos y hacer lo que los argentinos de bien necesitan y que creo que va a ser un buen caso para mostrar al mundo que las ideas de la libertad funcionan y generan prosperidad. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much. Do we have a interpreter that wants to, you all either have that, has everyone understood? Because I think you made a very important, profound statement, actually. But we could have it interpreted if you want. Does anybody want it interpreted? Would you like that? Would you like it? Can the interpreter speak what, do we have somebody set up for that? You want?
It's actually simultaneous, so if the President would like to repeat his statement, we can do it.
No, that's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll leave it that way. So it's an honor to have you here. And I just want to tell you that your career has been an amazing one, and it's going to continue with the election. You're going to win the election. We're going to endorse you. I'm going to endorse you today, fully endorse you. And you know, people in Argentina like me. A lot of people like me. I'm even surprised myself. But we had a great week. We had a great weekend. We had a great period of time in the Middle East. It was very comprehensive. It went very rapidly, and I think it's going to lead to something that's going to be unrecognizable, certainly for the Middle East. What's taken place in the last few days, people can't believe it. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen the love and the spirit. And I've done a lot of things. I've done a lot of deals. I've done a lot of political deals where countries come into line or whatever. But I've never seen anything like this, the level of love. And it has to do with the mystique of the Middle East, I think, because if I did other countries, I did 7 other settlements of wars, complete settlements of wars, and it was very well received. But this is something I've never seen anything like it. The media covered it very fairly, and even the fake news, of which we have a lot, they actually covered it fairly for a change. And I appreciated that. We have to get back to that. It's so important. But I just want to say it's a pleasure to be with you, and we're going to have lunch, and we'll take a couple of questions from the news, and I'm sure they'll be extremely non-hostile and friendly. Like JD went through a very friendly interview with George Slobodanopoulos, who was nice enough to pay me $16 million the last time we came. He had to pay $16 million to me, which was good. It was worth having somebody lie. If you get $16 million, that's good. But JD had a very nasty person interviewing him, and we can't let that happen. Just as inappropriate to cut off a highly respected vice president of the United States mid-sentence. I guess it's one way to win an argument. That was the only way he was going to win the argument. So it was pretty inappropriate, I want to tell you that. So thank you very much. Do you have something there?
Yes.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Sí. Quería
Yeah.
darle.
I'll get it. That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
And when he did this letter, Mr. President, your settlement in the Middle East wasn't done. So we had to do a new letter
Let's do it.
to include that, because this is a very important.
You'll have to add one extra sentence.
Exactly.
That's great. Thank you very much. This is a great, such a beautiful statement. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Okay.
Mr. President, how is this Argentina?
Why don't we talk about Argentina first? And
Yeah.
Go ahead. How is Argentina
Are
going?
you worried about the
how is this
influence of
Argentina-
China in Argentina? Sorry.
Go ahead.
How is this Argentina rescue package America first? And is this rescue package meant to help President Milei's party in the coming election?
No, it's really meant to help a good financial philosophy where Argentina can, after 20 years of disaster, because it was very successful at one point, and it can be again, like Venezuela. Venezuela was very, very successful, and now it's a dictatorship. When we can help our neighbors, we're making tremendous progress in South America. South America, Marco was telling me, he's like our great expert here. He really knows it. But you were telling me that so many of the countries are coming our way, and we had a few years ago when I just came back. So I've been here now almost 9 months. But when I just came in, I was amazed to see how poorly we've done. We lost so many, and one of them was Argentina. Would be lost if he wasn't there. And I think he will be there because the people recognize he's done an amazing job. He took over a real mess. So did I take over a mess. I took over a mess by, the Biden group. And Obama he started it, I'll tell you. Barack Hussein Obama started it. Could you give a couple of words on South America? You were telling me so well yesterday how well we're doing. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, we have now 8 or 9, 10 countries, Argentina being foremost among them, that have aligned with the United States on issue after issue in international community events all over the world. They're, in fact, these great allies like Argentina, but I can go into others, Costa Rica, I don't want to leave anybody out, El Salvador, but I think one of the more promising developments is later this month there'll be an election in Bolivia after 25, 30 years of anti-American hostile government. Both of the candidates running in that election, in the runoff election, want strong and better relations with the United States, and another transformative opportunity there. But so I think this is important. This is our hemisphere. It's where we live, and having strong neighbors such as this.
And great progress has been made, really.
And we'll make more.
Over the last 9 months. Really over the last 9 months. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, from Argentina, Buenos Aires, do you imagine soon a free trade agreement with Argentina? Could it be possible soon?
Yeah, it will be. Well, we're going to discuss some of it today, but no, we want to help Argentina, and we want to always help ourselves, but we want to help Argentina. And one of the ways we can do, they have great product, and we used to do a lot of trade, and then if you look at what the Democrats, well, they didn't know. They didn't know. Honestly, they didn't know what they were doing. But a lot of that trade disappeared, and they have great product. So we will be trading with Argentina, and it'll be helpful to them, and it's helpful. It's good for us also.
Mr. President, yeah, was China trying to draw a wedge between the U.S. and Argentina by buying soybeans from Argentina and not U.S. farmers?
I would say so.
And China on the port fees.
China
they've
likes to
increased
draw
port fees on
wedges.
U.S. ships too.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess that's natural. It's China, and it's natural, but it's not gonna mean anything in the end.
Mr. President,
Mr.
Mr.
President,
President.
from Argentina, should Argentina end the China swap and close the space base in Neuquén?
I don't think you should be doing business much with. You can do some trade, but you certainly shouldn't be doing beyond that. Certainly shouldn't be doing anything having to do with the military with China. And if that's what's happening, I'd be very upset about that. Yeah.
And what about
You
the
understand
swap?
that, Scott, right?
Mr. President,
You do understand.
Mr. President, what about the swaps? Because it's so important for Argentina, the swap.
Go ahead.
The central bank.
The American assistance is not predicated on the swap with China being closed. Any reporting to that effect is incorrect.
But you said that Argentina has to expose China from your business or from your agenda, and the swap is so important for Argentina.
No, I was referring more to ports, military bases, observation facilities that have been created in Argentina.
Than the swap? More than the swap?
More than the swap.
Mr. President.
He was referring to that. Yeah, behind you, please.
Yes, President, for Argentina, what's the benefit for United States in helping this way Argentina?
Just helping a great philosophy take over a great country. Argentina is one of the most beautiful countries that I've ever seen. And we want to see it succeed. It's very simple. I mean, we don't have to do it. It's not going to make a big difference for our country, but it will in terms of South America. If Argentina does well, you're going to have others following, and a lot of others are following. You have countries in South America that 2 years ago would have never even been thought of to go as democracies or as just countries that want to do fair and balanced trading. And now you mentioned Bolivia, but there are numerous other countries that are coming our way. And Brazil, as you know, I had a very good conversation with the president. I met him at the United Nations before I went up to speak, and then I found that I didn't have a speech because I had no teleprompter. They turned off my teleprompter purposely. They made it impossible for me. But it didn't silence me. I spoke without, and it was a good speech. I mean, it was a good speech. But no, think of that. You go into the United Nations, I'm speaking in front of 158 leaders and the whole world. And I look at my teleprompter and it's dead. They killed my teleprompter. They wouldn't let the man that operated into the booth. Can you believe that?
You don't have any specific interest in economic terms for the state?
I do have. No, I want to see it succeed. I think it's going to be great, and we will benefit also. But it's not that big a benefit because it's not that big a country, but it's a very important country, and it's a country that can be very successful. There are some countries that will never be successful. This is a country that has great potential if it has the right leadership, and you have the right leadership with this man right here. Okay?
Mr. President,
Mr. President, would you support dollarization?
I would say that I'll leave that up to my my economic people, but I like the dollar. I'm very strong on the dollar. And anybody who wants to deal in dollars, they have an advantage over people that aren't. But for the most part, we're keeping it that way. I think if Biden would have, that group would have gotten elected, meaning Kamala, you wouldn't have the dollar as your currency anymore. You wouldn't have a world domination by the dollar if I didn't win this election. And now the domination, like BRICS. I told anybody who wants to be in BRICS, that's fine, but we're going to put tariffs on your nation. Everybody dropped out. They're all dropping out of BRICS. BRICS was an attack on the dollar. And I said, you want to play that game, I'm going to put tariffs on all of your product coming into the U.S. they said, like I said, we're dropping out of BRICS. And BRICS is like, they don't even talk about it anymore. Scott, you want to add to that, please?
We're very happy with the current currency arrangement.
Mr. President,
Your ABC fake news.
Mr. President,
Brian, please.
First of all,
I
congratulations.
don't take questions from ABC fake news. After what you did with Stephanopoulos to the Vice President of the United States, I don't take questions from ABC fake news. Brian, go ahead.
Yes, sir. First of all, congratulations on achieving peace. You are indeed the peacemaker. On a lighter...
Did you ever think I was going to be called a peacemaker?
Actually, I did. I saw some of the actors you were...
Go ahead.
But on a lighter note, Alyssa Farah, she is one of the hosts on ABC's show The View. She said a while back, I'll quote, "If Trump gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on this show and say thank you for doing it." Your response?
Well, did she put the hat on?
Well, she hasn't got the hat yet.
Who is it? Which one?
Alyssa Farah.
Okay. Well, she used to work for me. So she used to work here. I'll tell you about Alyssa. She worked here. She gave me the most beautiful letter when, you know, the administration, the time came up, the election was rigged, I left. She gave me the most beautiful letter you've ever seen. I was a great president. What a great job. Some of the letters have been quoted. This is Alyssa, who I never thought was very outstanding. I figured she would not make it. And she didn't have a big role here either. And then we had January 6th, and she left after that or before that, but she gave me the most beautiful letters. And then even months after she left, and while we weren't here any longer, she sent another letter, glowing letter, beautiful letter. And then she got hired by The View, and they gave her a couple of bucks, and she changed her view very quickly. I never thought she'd make it. Never thought she had what it took in any way. You know what that means. But she's on The View. But it just shows what a fraud The View is, because this woman gave me letters and statements. She said I was the greatest president in her lifetime. Now, she's not that old, so I didn't consider it a great compliment, but I've had better.
Can we send her a hat?
Well, recently I've had the greatest president of them all. I like that much better.
Mr. President.
Does that include Washington and Lincoln? Yes, sir, it does. I said, I like that person. So I think she's a total, I think she's a joke.
Mr. President, on Gaza, how long will it take Hamas to disarm, and can you guarantee that is going to happen?
Well, they're going to disarm, and because they said they were going to disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them.
How will you do that?
I don't have to explain that to you. But if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. They know I'm not playing games. Okay? Now, we did something monumental. We got the hostages back. That was the first thing we had to do. Above all else, get the hostages back. Now, they misrepresented because we were told they had 26, 24 of dead hostages, if we can use those terms. And it seems as though they don't have that because we're talking about a much lesser number. But that's a very tough subject. I want them back. That's what they said. I want them back. Also, they said they were going to disarm. And initially speaking, they needed, you know, they did take out a couple of gangs that were very bad, very, very bad gangs, and they did take them out, and they killed a number of gang members. And that didn't bother me much, to be honest with you. That's okay. We had a couple of very bad gangs. You know, it's no different than other countries. Like Venezuela sent their gangs into us, and we took care of those gangs. We have Washington, D.C. is one of the safest cities in the country. It was one of the worst cities in the country if you go back just a little while ago, right? Now it's safe. You can walk to work. Isn't it nice? But we have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm. Do you understand me?
Yes. You say
because
quickly.
you always, everyone says, oh, well, they won't disarm. They will disarm. And I spoke to Hamas, and I said, you're going to disarm, right? Yes, sir, we're going to disarm. That's what they told me. They will disarm, or we will disarm them. Got it? Okay.
What is
next.
the deadline you're going to put on that? You say quickly, sir. Sir, you said quickly, but what is the deadline you're going to put on that before you take action?
A reasonable period of time. Pretty quickly. A reasonable period of time.
Congratulations on the peace you achieved in the Middle East, first
Thank
of
you
all.
very much.
And my question is regarding Argentina.
Does continue...
Are you from Argentina?
I'm from Argentina, yes.
I like the Argentina. I like them much better than ABC. Than ABC fake news.
Me too, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Does continued U.S. support for Argentina depend on the results of the upcoming legislative elections and the ability of the government to pass long-lasting reforms through Congress?
Well, I think if they don't do that, we're not going to be around very long. Scott, can you handle that one, please?
We're confident that the president's party will and the coalition will do well in the election, and this aid is predicated on robust policies, and going back to the failed Peronist policies would cause a U.S. rethink.
Thank you very much.
It's a little bit, it's a great question. It's a little like New York. You know, you're reading in Argentina about New York. We have a problem. We have a communist who's 33 years old, doesn't know a damn thing. Practically, he's never worked a day in his life. And he sort of caught on, right? And I'm not going to send a lot of money to New York. I don't have to. You know, the money comes all through the White House. And if they're going to be sending us stupid policies, I mean, communist policies, which is proven for thousands of years doesn't work. You know, we don't have to prove it again. We're not going to ruin one of our great cities because we'll make that great. We will clean up the crime in about 30 days. Took 12 days to do Washington, D.C., so New York is bigger. And Chicago, we've already made a lot of progress despite fighting from the government, but Chicago's doing great. Memphis is doing really great. You know, we have great support there from the political leaders. They said, please come in and clean up crime. And we love it. We've in 1 week, Memphis is so good. It's so much better. We'll have it within a month. We'll have that into a safe city again. And all of these cities, we want to clean them up. We don't like that opposition. But if somebody's going to be a communist mayor of New York, it's a fluke if he gets in. There are a lot of failed people that he's running against. I mean, we have failed. You have inferior candidates or something, because it's impossible to think that New York City can have a communist mayor. He's a communist. He's not a socialist, by the way. There's a big difference. He's a communist. He's down and dirty. He's a communist. He hates police. He wants to get rid of all police. I mean, how can a policeman? He hates Jewish people, and yet he's got Jewish people supporting. He hates Jewish people. So it comes through the White House. The funding for New York and for every place comes through the White House. And I'm very generous, and I was always very generous with New York, even when you had opposition there, but I was always very generous. But I wouldn't be generous to a communist, a guy that's going to take the money and throw it out the window, because you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. And we're not going to let somebody get into office and squander the taxpayer money from this country. We're not going to let it happen. So it's a little bit like that with, if you take a look at Argentina, if the president doesn't win, I know the person that he'd be running against, I believe, probably. We probably have the person. A person is extremely far left and a philosophy that got Argentina into this problem in the first place. So we would not be generous with Argentina if that happened. If he loses, we are not going to be generous with Argentina.
Mr. President, you talk about Argentina and important in the Latin American. What is your plan for Venezuela? But is the terrorism, the narco-terrorism in the President Maduro? What is your plan about it?
Venezuela's done a couple of things very badly. Number one, we get drugs and all of that. But we get something in a way worse, because they're a big purveyor of drugs, but we have worse. What they do very well is they send their criminals into the United States, and they send Tren de Aragua, that you know very well. You're from Venezuela, I assume. And they send them in by the thousands, literally. And these are the worst of all. And they empty their prisons into the United States. They empty their mental institutions into the United States. And because we had a president who's low IQ, he didn't realize what was going on. And the people that are high IQ that surround him, but they happen to be lunatics, radical left, they're highly intelligent, radical left lunatics, okay? So in a way, that's worse than having a guy like Biden. But they ran the show. You heard about the AutoPen, the person that really operated the AutoPen, but it was really the people that told the person that operated the AutoPen what to do. Those are the people that really were president, okay? So we're not going to stand for it in this country. And And by the way, that auto pen thing is under serious investigation. Just this, I don't think you care because you're from Argentina. You couldn't care less about that. But I just want to say, because I do the weave, you know, the weave, cover a lot of different subjects. But the people that are involved in that auto pen scam, because he barely signed anything. I mean, this guy, I don't know how you can be president. He barely signed it. But the only thing we can find for sure is that he signed Hunter's pardon, his pardon. Hunter's pardon, I like that. That's a good combination. So we're going to work very much with the president. We think he's going to win. He should win. And if he does win, we're going to be very helpful. And if he doesn't win, we're not going to waste our time because you have somebody whose philosophy has no chance of making Argentina great again.
What's your advice for Milei?
Steve, go ahead, Steve.
What's your advice for President Milei?
Just to check something, you said Hamas assured you that they would disarm. Was that a direct conversation or through Mr. Witkoff or
through my people?
Okay.
At the highest level.
What's your advice?
And it was meant for
What's your advice for President Milei and Argentina as a political leader?
My advice is to hold strong to his principles because he's right, and he's proving that he was right. He's got one problem. He's got people that are giving him tremendously bad press, even though they know it's wrong. He's got to hold true to his principles because he's going to win. He's going to win. He's doing the right thing. Everybody knows he's doing the right thing, but you have a radical left sick culture that's a very dangerous group of people, and they're trying to make him look bad. I believe he's going to win out.
We're doing the right way with China in this house.
China?
China is,
Well, you have to be careful with China. Look, everybody deals with China. They have to deal with us too. We have to be careful with China. Look, I have a great relationship with President Xi, but sometimes it gets testy because China likes to take advantage of people, and they can't take advantage of us. But we have a fair relationship with China, and I think it'll be fine. And if it's not, that's okay too. You have to do and go where the punches are thrown. You got to put up the blocks. We have a lot of punches being thrown, and we've been very successful. Look. We have the most success. I think we're the most successful we've ever been as a country. We have now close, I've been saying 17, we have, I think, close to or maybe even exceeding $18 trillion going to be invested in the United States. That's more money than ever invested in any country before. Even countries with much bigger populations like India or like China. Nobody's ever had $18 trillion invested in the country. We have, and that's because of November 5th election, because I won. Oh, if she won, you'd be negative. You'd have people getting out of the country. This country would have been in a major depression. If she won, we would have been 1929. They'd like to see that anyway. That's why they keep the government laws. They have a shutdown based on nonsense. They want to give away 1.5, think of it, they want to give away $1.5 trillion to people that come into the country illegally. And as you know, the borders now are closed. But when they hear that they get the greatest health care package in the world and they have no money, but they're living okay in another country, they head up and they start forming caravans and they try and come into our country. But the big problem is they want to give health care to people that should not get health care. They want to give health care to illegal immigrants by the millions. Look at Gavin Newsom, what he's done. He's ruined California. He gives health care to anybody. And I guess they do it for votes. I actually think it's bad politics, but I guess they do it for votes. So I'm with this man because his philosophy is correct. And he may win and he may not win, but I think he's going to win. And if he wins, we're staying with him. And if he doesn't win, we're gone.
How can Argentina help to the peace process, to the Middle East peace process?
They can help by doing well. If Argentina does well, that's helpful because they know we help Argentina. So if Argentina is successful, that's great because they view us as somebody that helped Argentina and they did well, and the United States maybe will help them and they're going to do well. So the success of Argentina would be a great feather in the cap of the USA because we're helping them. Right? You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, please, behind you. Behind you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week you said that NATO should consider expelling Spain.
What?
You said that NATO should consider expelling Spain. Would you support that?
What is expelling Spain?
NATO consider expelling Spain.
Oh. I'm very unhappy with Spain. They're the only country that didn't raise up their number to 5%. Every other country in NATO raised up to 5%. And Spain is doing very well off our backs. So I'm not happy with Spain. Spain gets protection, and they know, look, they're sort of in the semi-middle of it, so they're going to get protected automatically. Even if you don't want to protect them, you're protecting them because of the way they're located. And I think what Spain did is a very bad thing for NATO. I think it's very unfair to NATO. It wouldn't matter if you said you're not going to protect them because they're pretty much protected. What are you going to do? Go through the other countries and let's go attack Spain, right? So I think what they did is not nice. I think it's very disrespectful to NATO. In fact, I was thinking about giving them trade punishment through tariffs because of what they did. And I may do that. I think unbelievably disrespectful. Spain, the only one out of all the countries in NATO, the only one that said that is Spain. And I think that's, I think they should be punished for that. Yes.
On the government shutdown, you have the money to pay the troops on October 15th. Okay. How is
I actually have a man who is a very wealthy person. You'll know that when I tell you this. Who called a donor, a great gentleman, and he said, if there's any money necessary, shortfall, for the paying of the troops, then I will pay it, meaning he will pay it. How about that? I said, look, we're not going to need it. We're going to take care of our troops. But this was a position that's being forced upon us by Democrats. And all they have to do is just sign a piece of paper saying we're going to keep it going the way it is. There's nothing. It's not like it shouldn't even be an argument. They've signed it many times before. I don't want to bore you with the fact that Schumer said 100 times, you should never close up government. But Schumer's a weakened politician. I mean, he's going to finish his career as a failed politician. He's a failed politician. He's allowed the radical left to take over the Democrat Party. So if they write books about that, if they write books about him, they're going to have to say that his career ended by allowing the radical left to take over the party. I mean, I won an election in a landslide because people are not into the radical left, and the Democrat Party is. People didn't want to see men playing in women's sports. They didn't want to see transgender for everybody. They didn't want to see all of the different things that they do that's so crazy. Open borders. I mean, the worst thing that he did to us, it's not inflation, because we fixed inflation. Prices are way down. I don't know if you saw that gasoline went to 58 just now. Did you see what's going on with gasoline?
We track that.
No, $58 a barrel.
Yeah, we track that.
Nobody can believe it. I'm very proud of that. You know why? Because we're pumping like we've never pumped before. Because if you get the gas price down, everything else comes down. It's very simple. And he went away from my policies, and you had the greatest inflation. The last administration had the greatest inflation in the history of our country. And now, as you know, groceries are down. It's all down.
But on the shutdown, are you settling in for is this going to be a long term? Are we looking months?
It's up to them. All they have to do is just vote to extend. We don't need it. We're not saying we want money. We don't. All we need is a right to extend. They want a right to extend, but they want $1.5 trillion so they can give it away to illegal immigrants, the people that are invading your cities. And many of these people, for whatever reason, I mean, I understood this. I called it a long time ago. These countries are run by people I know, friends of mine. Like, I know this gentleman. I hope you haven't said, he probably did too. Why not? They send up their worst people. They send up people that are criminals. They send up people from jails. And at best, the best ones they send up are people that don't work very hard and that are on a social form of welfare. And they're sending those people into the United States. I don't blame them. I'm angry at them, but I don't blame them. But I'm really angry at Biden and Kamala and that group of lunatics for allowing it to happen, because it's the hardest thing. Now, you know, we're sending them out. It's incredible the job that Christie and Tom Homan and the whole group is doing. But we shouldn't have to be doing that. We're doing a lot of work on getting people out of here. Tren de Aragua has caused tremendous damage, and our soldiers are great. You know, our soldiers are now based on merit. They're not based on woke, because we won the case in the Supreme Court, which was the bravest case. I have such respect for the Supreme Court because of what they did with merit, because our country was built on merit. Countries are destroyed on woke. You know, I made a statement, and I hated to make it because it sounded bad, but everything turns to you know what when it goes woke. You remember the term. I don't like to use it because you might have some children listening, but it turns bad. And no, we have the hottest country right now anywhere in the world. That's why he's here. That's why every other country wants to meet here too. But we only have so many hours in the day and days in the week. But we got the hottest country. Think of it. We were a dead country a year and a half ago. And now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. It's pretty good. Did a good job. Okay.
And you're just watching now President Trump hosting the Argentine president, Javier Milei, at the White House, marking their second meeting within a month. And joining us now to discuss is Mike Leon, NTD News contributor and host of the Can We Please Talk podcast. And we have Tony Kinnett, national correspondent at the Daily Signal and host of the Tony Kinnett Cast radio show and podcast. So good to see you guys, as always. Tony, I'll start with you because I understand you might have to go soon. So what do you think of President Trump saying that he's going to endorse Milei and that if he wins, the U.S. will stay? If his opponent wins, then the U.S. is not going to be so generous.
The old classic art of foreign policy. Good afternoon to you both. I mean, this is how I actually, as an American, am okay with the American ethos being used. Politics is not a neutral game. It's not a we're going to stay out of it kind of game. Look, the United States aid is tied to our policies. It benefits Americans more for someone who is along same philosophical principles as Americans to be endorsed, or at least to say we don't want the other guy in an election. That's not a new thing. We've been doing that since we chose not to enter the French Revolutionary decision and essentially not upset the British back in the very first term. So as far as we're looking at here with the Milei decision, kind of a mixed bag with the whole loan aspect of it. But as far as tying aid to the political decisions that Argentina is making, I'm very much for that because, if it's like a Brazilian situation where they elect a socialist, then I don't believe the United States should then be aiding the country in the same way if they had someone who was more aligned to American political philosophy.
So, Mike, what are your thoughts on this? President Trump saying that the U.S. will continue to be generous to Argentina as long as Milei's in power.
Yeah, good to see you both, as always, on this Tuesday afternoon. No shock. I mean, Javier Milei was at the inauguration for Donald Trump. I mean, he's been friends with him. He joined him on the campaign trail. I mean, Tony's right about the overarching premise of, the political relationship. Whether we tie it to the aid of that country or not, I mean, again, it all depends on the economic benefits. They're not one of our top trade partners in Latin America. They're not even in the top five in terms of our trade partners. We're one of their top trade partners when you look at the five countries in the top five that they import and export to. So, I mean, I get that sentiment in terms of Trump saying, hey, if he's still around, for sure, yes, I will help Argentina. If he's not, I mean, I get that sentiment overall. The 25 midterm elections coming up in October 26, I should say, for Argentina will be critical to see what happens in that country. But in terms of this $20 billion currency swap, loan, whatever we want to call it, I mean, it's a mixed bag from the political messaging standpoint. You heard a reporter there ask him, how is this America first when we're bailing out Argentina? Anybody has seen the clips of Arkansas soybean farmers talking about how this is going to impact them? I don't know how I would sell it that this is America first, given for people that don't understand basic economics of what this currency swap looks like. I don't know how I would sell that. So I don't know how the president and his team are going to sell that. But I do understand when you think about the relationship that he has with Milei, make Argentina great again, and all the things that Milei has tried to, kind of impart on Argentina that has kind of mirrored or piggyback a little bit of what Trump said he was going to do on the campaign trail and what he's done so far these last 9 months.
So, Tony, can you comment on that as well, the $20 billion currency swap amid a government shutdown?
So first of all, the idea that government shutdown is kind of a central impact on here. Some of these funds are already allotted into certain, let's say, buckets or envelopes, as it were, to disperse in the current fiscal process. But that said, as for the 20 billion, I'm a little dubious on this as well. In the same way, probably mostly the same way that Mike is. Just throwing money at a country and hoping that it sticks and that it's fine and that it's going to help. I have a bit of PTSD on that particular matter because throwing money at programs doesn't magically fix them. That said, it is also true concurrently that, yeah, the Milei government is overcoming, 80 to 120 years of really terrible back and forth circuit breaker switch flipping policies. And I get it. I get the stimulus kind of goals, the idea of growing Argentina's economy as a regional trade partner. Kind of in an Israel of the South America, to kind of drive a longer term U.S. interest there. I get the appeal of it. I don't know how workable it is. And here's where I'll actually admit that my practical knowledge would end, and I'd say, well, I don't know. I had different predictions about what Trump's tariff proposals would do for the U.S. inflation rates. And those, I ended up seeing something totally different, a second or third prediction that I had kind of waiting in the wings. So here I see Scott Bessent very hesitant. You can actually tell how the Trump administration's economic policy is being carried out by how Scott starts talking. He's very hesitant here. I don't know exactly how this currency swap is going to be effectuated. I don't know if it's going to be enough to make a major tick in the Argentine stock markets and the economy itself. So I'm kind of waiting. I wouldn't say cautiously optimistic, more just cautious. I'm kind of on my tiptoes here.
So, Mike, can you comment on Trump and Milei's relationship here? How much of their ideologies are aligned?
Yeah, I mean that's the big question. I mean, Milei's a self-described, I believe, libertarian. So would we put Trump in that libertarian category? I mean, maybe, depends upon what it is that you're talking about. From that perspective, here's one thing I will say about something that Milei has done since 2023. I had to read these numbers earlier, Don, Tony, because these shocked me. When he took office in 2023, inflation was roughly 211% annually. That's as of December of 2023. This is according to BBC News. Since then, 2 years later into his administration, they've had their first fiscal surplus in the last 14 years. And inflation is down to 36%. Again, this is according to BBC News. So, I mean, the bailout part of this, right, in terms of the relationship, Don, to your question, we know why he's doing it. I just said, make Argentina great again. He's joked about that on the campaign trail. That's the slogan that he's brought upon. The chainsaw was a gift from Elon. They have a very close relationship. So he just said it in the presser. He's like, if he's not here, I'm not going to give them money. If he's here, I'm going to give them money. So I don't need to expand on the relationship beyond that. But what I will say is that, back to Tony's point about the political angle of this, right? The government shutdown is not tied to this. Tony's right. There's already funds pre-allocated for this. But the fact that on the surface, we're struggling right now with tariff policy that is having real impact in the flyover states. I hate that term. In those Rust Belt states that farmers are impacted. They're going on different platforms and saying, we can't be giving $20 billion to one of our big competitors in the soybean market. And it just looks bad on the surface. And so I come at it from a little bit of that angle. The relationship is self-explanatory. I mean, the two of them, again, one went to the other one's inauguration, and the other one just said in front of reporters and the entire cabinet that he's only going to give him money if Milei's there, and he's not going to give him money if Milei's there. And it doesn't matter if you speak English or Spanish. You could easily see that they'd have a really good relationship. But the political angle in all of this is the one that Trump has really got to pick up the pieces. And Tony's right. Scott Bessent's kind of, dancing around, maybe a little bit hesitant in terms of describing this relationship. I think that speaks volumes for sure.
Okay, Tony, I do believe you have to go soon. I mean, if you want to give a quick final thought, and then we'll let you go.
Absolutely. So the kind of core issue that I have with this is that I really don't care for the presidential purse of USAID. I said that before. I said that here on this segment before. I don't like the idea of the president of the United States kind of deciding, hey, we have this money that's set aside for me to use as an essential combative measure on the world stage. You have soft diplomacy, and then you have more heavy-handed diplomacy through the strong arm of U.S. force and diplomatic leverage. And the reason that USAID was invented was to give the president a personal bribery fund, to bribe countries to work with the United States instead of the Soviet Union. That's why it was created. USAID is shut down. I don't like that. I don't like that. Well, yeah, it may be gone, but its ghost will remain with us forever. And little private projects that do, at face value, hurt American farmers. I don't like playing around with American farmers anyway. Like, either we do subsidies or we don't. We don't provide foreign subsidies at the same time as central structured subsidies. It makes the incentive market bonkers. I think that there might be ways to, and I'll have to do research on this, there might be ways to cut regulatory action in order to incentivize regional trade and currency shoring in developing Argentine markets in order to shore up their currency long term that have previously not been available. For example, prior administrations had central restrictions on certain mountainous mining and refining. That might be something to look into. I'm just a guy from one of those corn and soybean fields in Indiana. They just picked ours this afternoon. So as far as I'm concerned, I just don't like this whole thing in general. I like Javier Milei. I get why he's doing it, like Mike said. I really don't like reviving the ghost of USAID. I just think that it needs to be put to bed and done with. The Cold War is over. I get that China is an adversary to combat them, but the throwing around the money purse just it rubs me the wrong way as a free market conservative. I don't care for it.
Well, okay, Tony, we'll let you go now, and we'll speak again the next week. Thank you.
Thanks both.
Okay, so Mike, I also wanted to get your comments real quick on the Gaza peace plan as well today. So, I find it interesting that many left-leaning media outlets are reporting on this deal positively, and some would even call it rare when it comes to Trump. What do you think about all this?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a couple things, Don. First, President Biden did get 100 or so Israeli hostages out of, Hamas control, right? But was he able to negotiate something like this, where it was a 20-point plan that was articulated, drafted, had other countries support and buy-in, as you saw those countries in Egypt? Did it have a future plan and state for Gaza, for people to return back to Gaza? The Palestinian prisoner exchange that happened with over 2,000 or so Palestinian prisoners. Remember, there was a lot of Palestinians that were taken and put in Israeli prisons post October 7th of 2023. So did the Biden administration do any of that? No. I mean, I hate that people can't have these two thoughts in their head at the same time, Don. Like, for me, I will always hammer President Trump on things that he is doing domestically that are potentially harming American citizens that I disagree with, whether it be things that are happening right now at DHS and what ICE is doing and becoming the largest law enforcement agency. There are a bunch of things to talk about from a domestic standpoint, deploying National Guard troops and city safety, and how do we do all that. But when it comes to this on the foreign policy stage, I think for these outlets, the president said, I can solve these wars. They wouldn't have started if I was here, which obviously is subjective. We have no idea. That's hypothetical. We don't even know if that would have happened. But here we are now, a short, 10, 12 months later since the campaign trail, and we're seeing a ceasefire, although there's been little, let's be honest, inklings of some Israeli IDF just reporting that they shot some Palestinians this morning, according to a bunch of different outlets. So I don't know if that breaks the terms of the ceasefire. But to actually see these countries show up in Egypt yesterday, sign this peace agreement in phase one, and now we'll see what happens in phase two. I mean, the fact that we've gotten to this point, you can only point to one thing to give credit to. And all these outlets all said Steve Witkoff is not the guy to be able to negotiate something like this, Don, because he doesn't have this experience. He's worked in real estate. And here is Steve Witkoff bringing these parties to the table and getting this first part of phase one done with these Israeli hostages coming home and the Palestinian prisoners going back to Gaza. I mean, you have to give credit where credit's due sometimes, Don.
And just real quick, one final question, I think. You mentioned that Hamas went onto the streets to, execute Palestinians they claim worked with Israel. Do you think that's a red flag there in terms of lasting peace in the region? And plus the fact that Hamas has not agreed to disarm.
Yeah, I think both of those things are the thing that I've been saying the most across NTD, over the last couple of days since it's been signed, right? Like phase one, and again, I hate even saying this because of the hostages and all the turmoil they went through. Phase one was probably the easiest part of this, getting a negotiation and the countries to agree on prisoner swap, hostages swap, location, who's mediating that. That's the easiest part. The second part of this is there a two-state solution? Is, Gazans returning back home? What does the future of the government, in Gaza look like, right? Is it something from the West Bank? Is it something that's new to that area? And then how does Hamas ultimately disarm when the West considers Hamas a terrorist organization? Those are things we can't answer, Don, because nobody knows that. And if we did know that, this conflict would have been solved. October 7th would have never happened. All of those things. So Hamas has been in power, or at least been around since 2005, 2006. They killed leaders of the opposition party, even though they were duly elected. I mean, this has been happening for over 20 plus years. So the fact that we got phase one done, again, I don't want it to sound callous, because like I said, I'm incredibly sensitive of everything that the hostages have gone through and the prisoners have gone through. That was the easy part. The harder part now comes in what becomes the future state of this region without Hamas, because I can't imagine Hamas saying, yeah, you know what, we are going to disarm. Even though President Trump has said this a bunch, and I know he said the caveat, he said it in the cabinet meeting, he just said that if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. How does that look? What is that? We will disarm them. Because if it's more bombing, if it's more indiscriminate killing, there's 70,000 people that have died in Gaza since this war has happened, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. To continue to indiscriminately bomb Gaza because of the Hamas militants that are there, that's not the solve for this. He wants truly everlasting peace. I don't know how we get that. I don't know how we accomplish phase two with Hamas in charge, Don.
Okay, well, Mike, it's always good to talk to you. And I think that's our time today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Don.
U.S. Homeland Security says cartels are placing bounties on ICE and federal agents. Up to 50 grand is being offered, but Kristi Noem says the U.S. will not back down to the threats. Stay with us for that after the break.